The Iron Crown of Lombardy is both a reliquary and one of the oldest royal insignia of Christendom. It was made in the early Middle Ages, consisting of a circlet of gold fitted around a central iron band, which according to legend was beaten out of a nail of the true cross. The crown became one of the symbols of the Kingdom of Lombards and later of the medieval Kingdom of Italy. It is kept in the Cathedral of Monza, outside Milan. Description: the Iron Crown is so called from a narrow band of iron about 1 centimeter within it, said to be beaten out of a nail used at the crucifixion. The outer circlet of the crown is of 6 segments of beaten gold partly enameled, joined together by hinges and set with 22 gemstones that stand out in relief, in the form of crosses and flowers. Its small size and hinged construction have suggested to some that it was originally a large armlet or perhaps a votive crown. According to others, the small size is due to a readjustment after the loss of 2 segments, as described in historical documents. Legend: according to tradition, the nail was first given to Emperor Constantine by his mother Street, Helena, who had discovered the true cross. Helena supposedly cast one nail into the sea to calm a storm, while another was incorporated in a diadem then mounted into Constantine's helmet, another fitted to the head of a statue of the emperor, and a fourth melted down and molded into a bit for Constantine's horse. Since almost 30 European countries lay claim to fragments of the holy nails, Blom holds that Constantine also understood the value of these objects in diplomacy. Several were sent off to various dignitaries, one of whom was Princess Theodolinda. She used her nail as part of her crown, the famous Iron Crown of Lombardy. When the nail was incorporated into a crown and how it fell into the hands of the Lombard kings is unclear, though legends involve Theodolinda, the Queen of Lombards who resided at Monza in the late 6th century, for her part in converting the Lombards to Christianity. Theodolinda supposedly donated the crown to the Italian church at Monza in 628, where it was preserved. According to another tradition, reported by the historian Valeriana Maspero, the helm and the bit of Constantine were brought to Milan by Emperor Theodosius I, who resided there, and were exposed at his funeral, as described by St. Ambrose in his funeral oration De Obituo Theodosii. Then, as the bit remained in Milan, the helm with the diadem was transferred to Constantinople, until Theodoric the Great, who had previously threatened Constantinople itself, claimed it as part of its right of King of Italy. The Byzantines then sent him the diadem, holding the helmet. King Theodoric then adopted the diadem Gemmis insignitum, quaes preciosi ferro in exacusis redemptoris divinae gemma connectates as his crown. And this is the Iron Crown, passed by the Goths to the Lombards when they invaded Italy. In some accounts, the crown was used in Charlemagne's coronation as king of the Lombards. Contemporary or nearly contemporary accounts of the initiations of the earlier kings of the Lombards stress the importance of the kings taking in hand of a holy lance. History: the crown was certainly in use for the coronation of the kings of Italy by the 14th century, and presumably since at least the 11th. The manufacture of the crown dates to the 8th or early 9th century. Lord Twining cites a hypothesis by Reinhold N. Elza that Gisela, the daughter of the Emperor Louis the Pious and married to Duke Eberhard of Friuli, may have originally possessed the crown and left it to her son Berengar I on her death in 874. Berengar was the only major benefactor of the church at Monza at this time and also gave the Cathedral of St. John in Monza a cross made in the same style as the Iron Crown, which is still preserved in the church's treasury. Twining also notes that the Imperial Museum at St. Petersburg includes in its collection 2 medieval crowns found at Kazan in 1730 made in the same style and of the same size as the Iron Crown. Twining notes that while these crowns and the Iron Crown are too small to be worn around an adult human head, They could be worn on the top of the head if affixed to a veil, and this would account for the small holes on the rim of the iron crown. Twining also mentions a relief plaque in the cathedral which appears to represent the coronation of Otto IV at Monza in 1209 as it was described by Mauritius in 1345, and stresses the point that although 4 votive crowns is shown hanging above the altar, the crown which the archbishop is placing on the king's head bears no resemblance to the iron crown. The Encyclopaedia Britannica states that the first reliable record of the use of the iron crown in the coronation of a king of Italy is that of the coronation of Henry VII in 1312. Finally, Twining cites a study by Ludovico Antonio Muratori which documents the various degrees of the ecclesiastical authorities alternately authorizing and suppressing the veneration of the iron crown until in 1688 the matter was subjected to be studied by the Congregation of Rites in Rome, which in 1715 diplomatically concluded its official examination by permitting iron crown to be exposed for public veneration and carried in processions, but leaving the essential point of the identity of the iron ring of the iron crown with one of the nails of Christ's crucifixion undecided. However, subsequently Archbishop Visconti of Milan gave his own decision that the iron ring in the Monza crown should be considered as one of the nails of the Holy Cross and as an original relic. Twining notes that the clergy of Monza assert that despite the centuries that the iron crown has been exposed to public veneration, there is not a speck of rust on the essential inner iron ring. Lipinski, in his examination of the iron crown in 1985, noted that the inner ring does not attract a magnet. Analysis of the inner ring in 1993 revealed that the ring is made of silver. 34 coronations with the iron crown were counted by the historian Bartolomeo Zucchi from the 9th to the 17th century. The Encyclopaedia Britannica states that the first reliable record of the use of the iron crown in the coronation of a king of Italy is that of the coronation of Henry VII. Later coronations in which the crown was used include Charles IV, Charles V, Napoleon I, Ferdinand I of Austria. Since the 10th century, the Roman German kings would travel to Rome to be crowned Holy Roman Emperors. On their way, they traditionally stopped in Lombardy to be crowned with the iron crown as kings of Italy. The traditional site of the coronation was Pavia, the old Lombard capital, but starting with Conrad II in 1026, later on coronations were also performed at Milan. In 1530, Charles V received the iron crown simultaneously with his imperial coronation at Bologna. On May 26, 1805, Napoleon Bonaparte had himself crowned King of Italy at Milan, with suitable splendor and magnificence. Seated upon a superb throne, he was invested with the usual insignia of royalty by the Cardinal Archbishop of Milan, and ascending the altar, he took the iron crown, and placing it on his head, exclaimed, being part of the ceremony used at the enthronement of the Lombard kings, "Gi mi la duns gara chi la tiasce, God gives it to me, beware whoever touches it." On the occasion, Napoleon founded the Order of the Iron Crown, on June 15, 1805. After Napoleon's fall and the annexation of Lombardy to Austria, the order was reinstituted by the Austrian Emperor Francis I on January 1, 1816. The last to be crowned with the Iron Crown was Emperor Ferdinand I in his role as King of Lombardy and Venetia. This occurred in Milan on September 6, 1838. After the war between Austria and Italy, when the Austrians had to withdraw from Lombardy in 1859, the Iron Crown was moved to Vienna, where it remained until 1866 when it was given back to Italy after the Third Italian War of Independence. Coronation rite for the kings of Italy. From the 9th to the 18th century, the kings of Italy were also the Holy Roman Emperors. So many of them received the Iron Crown of Lombardy at Pavia, the formal capital of the kingdom. The earliest form of this coronation ritual closely follows that of for the imperial coronation in the Gemindan Codex and makes no mention of an anointing. The coronation of Henry VII and Margaret at Milan in 1311, as the king enters the choir the prayer, Almighty, everlasting God of heaven and earth, is said, and then the oath is put to the king in interrogatory form. This is followed by the bishop's petition that he respect the rights and privileges of the church and the king's reply. The recognition follows, the people answering, Kyrie eleison. The Litany of the Saints is sung, concluded by 3 prayers. We invoke you, God, who the people, and, on this day, the consecratory prayer, then said, Almighty, everlasting God, Creator and Governor of the world, while the antiphon, Favor of the just, or Zadok the priest, is sung while the king is anointed on shoulders. After which is said the prayer, God the Son of God, the king is given a ring with the, receive the ring of royal dignity. Followed by the prayer, God with whom is all power. The sword is given with the words, receive this sword. Followed by the prayer, God whose providence. The king is crowned with the words, receive this royal crown. Followed by the prayer, God of continuity. The scepter is given with the words, receive the scepter of royal power. Followed by the prayer, Lord. The king is then enthroned, after which the orb is given the king with the words beginning, receive this gold apple, which signifies monarchy over all the kingdom. The king replies, let it be done. To the charge, be upright, O king, and the Te Deum is sung. The Queen's coronation begins with the prayer, Almighty, everlasting God, fountain origin, and is then followed by the consecratory prayer, God who alone, and the Queen is then anointed on her shoulders with the form, in the name, you are anointed with this oil. Followed by the prayer, the grace of the Holy Spirit. The Queen then receive a ring with the word, receive the ring, the sign of faith in the Holy Trinity. Followed by the prayer, Lord, the fount of all goodness. The Queen is crowned with the words, receive the crown of glory. Followed by the prayers, by our unworthy ministry, and, Almighty, everlasting God, infuse the Spirit. The Mass said at this coronation was that of the Ambrosian Missa pro Imperator. Scientific analysis. In 1993 the crown was subjected to extensive scientific analysis performed by the University of Milan. In particular, X-ray fluorescence analysis and radiocarbon dating were performed, as reported by Professor M. Milazzo. The XRF analysis performed on the metal of the crown revealed that all the foils, rosettes and bezels were made with the same alloy, made of 84 to 85% gold, 5 to 7% silver, 8 to 10% copper, suggesting a contemporary construction of the main part of the crown, while the fillets external of the enamel plates and the hinge pins were made of 90 to 91% gold and 9 to 10% silver, suggesting one or more subsequent reworking. 3 of the 24 vitreous enamel plates are even visually different from the others, in color and construction, and were traditionally considered to be later restorations. The XRF analysis confirmed that they were made with a different technique, being their glass made of potassium salt, while the others, instead, are made of sodium salt. More surprising findings came up, however, by the radiocarbon dating of fragments of beeswax used to fix the enamel plates to the gold foils of the crown, the ones taken under the strange plates being dated from around 500 AD, and the ones under the normal plates from around 800 AD. That is consistent with the tradition of a more antique crown, further decorated during the reign of Theodoric, and that has been extensively restored during the reign of Charlemagne. The iron nail was found to be 99% silver, meaning the crown contains no iron. However, a note from the Roman ceremonial of 1159 provides that the iron crown is so-called quod laminum quondam habet in summitate, stating that the iron was once laid over the crown, not into it. Speculations have been made that the silver circle was added by the goldsmith Antellato Braxiforte, who restored the crown in 1345 to reinforce it, given that the steeling of 2 plates had weakened the hinges. In 1352, for the first time, a document describes the crown as being small. As for the gems in the crown, a present 7 red garnets, 7 blue corundums, 4 violet amethysts, and 4 gems are made of glass.